Hello, this is Shay Jackson with Hype Math, and in today's video, we will be reviewing for the 2022 Texas STAAR Math Test for 6th graders. The concept is converting fractions, decimals, and percents. This is part 2. Remember, 6th graders, every day may not be good, but there is something good in every day. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so that you will be alerted to new videos that are uploaded. All of the problems we will be going over in this video are in our 6th grade STAAR Math Review Workbook. It is available for purchase in our store. The link will be in the description box so that you can purchase yours today. Let's review converting fractions to decimals, and then we're going to talk about decimals to fractions, and lastly, how to convert decimals to percents before we dive in to our problems. So when you convert fractions to decimals, there are two options that you have. The option one we're going to talk about is finding an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 10, 100, or 1000. In our example, we are going to convert 3/5 to a decimal. The way we're going to do that is ask ourselves, can we make this an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 10? And the answer is yes, we can. So we are going to multiply 3/5 times 2/2 because 5 times 2 will give us that 10. And whatever we do to the bottom, we must multiply by the top. So 2/2. Now let's multiply our numerators. 3 times 2 is equal to 6. 5 times 2 is equal to 10. So the equivalent fraction of 3/5 is 6/10. Now we can convert 6/10 to a decimal, which is 0.6. Let's look at another example. We are going to convert 1/2 to a decimal. Again, the first thing we're going to ask ourselves is there a way we can make this an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 10 or a value of 10, like 10, 100, or 1000? And the answer is yes. So how do we do that? We're going to look at our denominator and we're going to ask ourselves, what number can we multiply by 2 in order for it to be 10? And the answer is 5. So we're going to multiply our numerator and denominator by 5. Going across to multiply the numerators, 1 times 5 is equal to 5. 2 times 5 is equal to 10. So 5/10 is the equivalent fraction of 1/2. Now we need to convert 5/10 to a decimal, and that is 0.5. Now let's talk about the second way we can convert a fraction to a decimal. It's by dividing the numerator by the denominator. So in our example, we are going to convert 1/4 to a decimal. We are going to put our denominator on the outside of the house and the 1 on the inside. Because we know that we cannot, 4 cannot go into 1, we have to add a decimal place behind that 1, and we're going to start off by adding 2 zeros. So now we're going to ask ourselves, how many times can 4 go into 10? And the answer is 2. Yes, the answer is 2. Remember, 6th graders, wherever you put the decimal in the house, you have to put it on the roof as well, okay? So we have 0 and we know that 4 can go into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is equal to 8. 10 minus 8 is equal to 2. We bring down our 0. Now we're going to ask ourselves, how many times can 4 go into 20? And the answer is 5. So 1/4 can be converted to 0.25 or 25 hundredths. Let's look at another example of converting fractions to decimals. We want to convert 9/25 to a decimal. we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. So the denominator goes on the outside of the house and the 9 is on the inside of the house. Since we know that 25 cannot go into 9, we need to add a decimal behind the 9, and we're going to start off by adding 2 zeros. And again, wherever we put that decimal inside of the house, we have to make sure we put it on the roof as well. Okay, so 25 can go into 90 3 times. 3 times 25 is equal to 75. 90 minus 75 is equal to 15. We bring down a 0. And 25 can go into 150 6 times. 6 times 25 is 150. So 9 and 25 hundredths can be converted to 0.36. Okay. Now let's talk about how we can convert decimals to percents. And it's pretty easy. With decimals, the way that you convert the decimal to a percent is you multiply by 100. That means we are going to move the decimal place 2 places to the right, the decimal point 2 places to the right, and we're going to drop the decimal, we're going to add a percent, okay? So in our example for 0.25, we're multiplying it by 100. That means we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. That means that my number is 25, and then I'm going to plop a percent sign at the end. So my answer for 0.25 converted to a percent is 25%. Let's look at another example. We want to convert 36 hundredths to a decimal. Well, in order for us to do that, we said to convert decimals to percents, we are going to multiply by 100, which means we're going to move our decimal place 2 places to the right. Once we do that, we add a percent sign at the end. So 0.36 or 36 hundredths is converted to 36%. Now that we have all of that information, let's dive into our problem. And remember, if you want to follow along with the problems, you can purchase our workbook. They are available at our store. The link will be in the description box. Number 7 says, which list shows the numbers in order from least value to greatest value? Is it A, -2 fifths, negative 2.47, negative 2.5, 5, and 21/4? Is it B, -2 fifths, negative 2.47, negative 2.5, 21/4, 5? Or is it C, -2.5, negative 2.47, negative 2 fifths, 5, 21/4? Or D, -2.5, negative 2.47, negative 2 fifths, 21/4, and 5. Our first important question we need to ask is, what are we looking for? We are looking for the list that shows the numbers in order from least to greatest. That means from the smallest number to the greatest number. The next important question is, what information can help us find the answer? The information that can help us find the answer is us converting all of the numbers that are fractions into decimals, okay? Once we convert all of the numbers into decimals, then we'll be able to compare and order our numbers. So how do we solve the problem? We are going to dive in converting our fractions to decimals. So let's start with -2 fifths. We said for option 1, we're going to see if we can have an equivalent fraction where the denominator is either 10, 100, or 1000. Since our denominator is 5, then we can use option 1. That means we are going to multiply and ask ourselves what number multiplied by 5 is equal to 2. to 10, and the answer is 2. So I'm going to multiply 2 by the top, the numerator, and the denominator. When we multiply our numerators going across, 2 times 2 is equal to 4, and 5 times 2 is equal to 10. That's -4/10. Now I can convert that into a decimal, and my answer is -0.4 or -4/10. Okay, now let's tackle our next fraction. It's -2.5. Again, we're going to see if we can use option 1 because that's the easiest option as opposed to having to divide out the numerator and the denominator, okay? We're looking at the 2, and again, we're going to ask ourselves, is there any number that I can multiply 2 by in order to come up with a value of 10, like 10, 100, or 1,000? And the answer is yes. 2 times 5 is equal to 10. So I'm going to multiply my numerator and my denominator by 5. I'm going to keep my whole number, so it's -2. Now we need to multiply our numerators. 1 times 5 is equal to 5, and 2 times 5 is equal to 10. So now my equivalent fraction is -2 and 5/10, which can be converted to -2.5. Lastly, we have 21/4. We need to convert that into a decimal. First, we're going to make the improper fraction a mixed number, okay? And that will be equal to 5 1/4. Now, we still have a fraction. We're going to ask ourselves, is there an equivalent fraction where if I multiply it, that it will equal either 10, 100, or 1,000? And the answer is yes. If we multiply 4 times 25, that will equal 100. So we're going to multiply 25 by the top and the bottom. Multiplying across, we have 4 times 25 is equal to 100, and 1 times 25 is equal to 25. So that is 5 and 25 over 100, which can be converted to 5.25. Now, that was a lot. Now that we have all of our numbers in fraction form or whole number form, we are going to ask ourselves how we're going to solve this problem, okay? Since we've converted everything to a decimal, the next step is we are going to order the numbers from least to greatest. So we've just wrote the numbers out, and they're not in the first line where it's the -0.4, -2.5, 5.255, and -2.47. That's not in any type of order. It was just we wrote the numbers down. But that next line, we are going from least to greatest, okay? Now, one thing that I want to give as a friendly reminder, 6th graders, is whenever you have negative numbers, the larger the negative number, actually the smaller it is because it's negative, okay? So we're going to start with looking at our numbers. We have 3 negative numbers. Those will be first when it comes to ordering from least to greatest. What's the largest one? It is -2.5. That's going to be our first number. Next is -2.47. Then -4/10 or -0.4. Now we can move to our positive numbers. They are 5 and 5.25. So our list, when we order numbers from least to greatest, will be -2.5, -2.47, -0.4, 5, and 5.25. And what I did was I put the fractions at the bottom, and they're highlighted and coordinate with the fraction so we could remember what those decimals were in fraction form, okay? Especially since our answer choices still have the fractions. What is the correct answer? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to look at our answer choices to see which one is similar to our answer that we have, which is, and now I'm going to say it in fraction form, -2.5, -2.47, -2/5, 5, and 21/4. Do you see that in the answer choices? And if so, what letter is it? If you said C, you are absolutely correct. So the list of numbers in order from least value to greatest value is -2.5, -2.47, -2/5, 5, and 21/4. Let's dive into our next problem. Number 8 says, the table shows the portion of a day 4 students use to build a website. Which list shows the students in order from the greatest amount of time used to the least amount of time used? All right, and we're looking at our table. We see that it has a column with the student and a column with the portion of the day. So for Jamel, it was 29.4%, Andrew 37.6%, Ernesto 7/25, and for Blake 3/10. Our answer choices are F, Andrew, Blake, Jamel, Ernesto; G, Blake, Andrew, Jamel, Ernesto; H, Ernesto, Blake, Andrew, Jamel; or J, Andrew, Jamel, Ernesto, Blake. And remember, we're going from the greatest amount to the least amount, okay? So our first important question is, what are we looking for? We are looking for the list showing students in order from the greatest to the least amount of time used to build that website, okay? So what information can help us find the answer? Okay, what information can help us find the answer? As we're looking at the table, we notice that there is a percent sign, and it's a decimal percent. So, and we have fractions. So in order for us to be able to even start solving the problem, what we're going to have to do is first convert our fractions to a decimal, and then after we convert it to a decimal, we're going to convert it to a percent. Okay, so that is 2 steps. The first step, let's start with 7/25. We are going to convert that to a decimal. Again, starting with option 1, looking at my denominator, is there any number that I can multiply by 5 that will have a value of 10, like 10, 100, or 1000? The answer is yes. What number is that? 4. 25 times 4 is equal to 100. So I'm going to multiply my numerator and my denominator by 4. Now I'm going to multiply my numerators going across. 7 times 4 is equal to 28. 20 times 4 again is equal to 100. 28/100. I can convert that easily to a decimal, which will be 0.28. That's step 1. Step 2, now I need to multiply 0.28 by 100 because I need to make it a decimal. I need to make it a percent. So when I move my decimal 2 places to the right and I add my percent sign, 7/25 is equal to 28%. Now let's look at our next fraction, which is 3/10. Well, on this one, we just have to use one step. Okay, first, we're going to convert our fraction is 3/10, so we could just write that as a decimal, which is 0.3. Now we need to convert it to a percent, which means I need to multiply it by 100. When I do that, that means I am moving my decimal place 2 places to the right. When I move my decimal place 2 places to the right, my answer is 30%. Okay, so 7, we now know that 7 over 25 is equal to 28%, and 3 over 10 is equal to 30%. How are we going to solve this problem? Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to write our numbers down, which are 28%, and they're still color-coded, so we can remember what fraction and the percent goes with what. We have 30%, 29.4%, 37.6%, okay? They're not written in any order on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, since we know we're going to go from the greatest amount to the least amount, that means the largest number has to go first, and then we're going to decrease down to the smallest number. So 37.6% is first, then 30%, next is 29.4%, and the last number, the least amount, is 28%. Okay? What is the correct answer? Well, now that I know the list of students from greatest to least, what I'm going to do is look at my chart, see the answer, the student whose name is there, and then I'm going to look at my answer choices to see which list matches, which names match my list. Okay, so we'll see that 37.6%, well, looking at the chart, that's Andrew. 30%, okay, well, we know that there's not a 30% on the chart, but we remember that we converted that 30% from a fraction, and that fraction is 3/10. That means that's Blake. 29.4% is next. That's Jamel. And 28%, okay, we don't have a 28% on our table, but we remember that we converted that from a fraction, and our fraction is 7 over 25, which is Ernesto. So what is the correct answer based on that information? If you said F, you're absolutely correct. From our list of students in order from greatest to least amount of time is Andrew, Blake, Jamel, and Ernesto. F is the correct answer. And that is it, 6th graders. Remember, if you want to follow along in the workbook and be able to write down all of the notes that we talk about in the video, you can purchase it in our store. The link is in the description box. This is Shay Jackson with Hype Math. I will talk to you later.